What's up, everybody? A to Z Sports. You're live from Titans training camp as they just wrapped up day 5, practice number 5 of Titans camp. And tomorrow is when the pads come on for the first time. They could have done that today with NFL rules, but they decided to go and wait for Tuesday's practice for the first day in pads. But we did see the first day of Caleb Farley,
That's right.
Austin Stanley, Luke Worsham here of A to Z Sports here out at St. Thomas Sports Park. Here and Luke, I'll just go ahead and let you start. Caleb Farley, the first round draft pick, was on the field for the first time. And what'd you think? I mean, he's big, tall, long. He's wearing number 3 that I think makes him probably look a little bit even bigger.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the first round draft pick?
Man, I think you nailed it on the head with the first thing that stands out about this guy is the physical characteristics. Not even so much anything he's doing while in motion, not the running,
right?
Not the hip movement or anything like that. It's the physical specimen that this guy is when he stands there. And the Titans really, obviously Caleb Farley is an elite athletic talent, but just in terms of the size, it's been a while since the Titans have had a cornerback that long. Over the last several years, they've relied on the Malcolm Butlers and Logan Ryans of the world, who are sort of those smaller, feisty cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Whereas Caleb Farley is in the tradition of that long press man coverage cornerback. And it immediately stands out when you see him in person for the first time.
Yeah, and so what did Farley do? And I kind of predicted this morning when we were live on our morning show and the news came out that Caleb Farley was activated from the NFI list to the active roster today after passing the physical. But he didn't do much. He did he did stretch, he did individual, and then he watched the team periods, whether it was 7-on-7 or 11-on-11, didn't matter what it was. Caleb Farley was watching there. But I do think in the individual drills, and there was one drill they did working with the other wide receivers on line of scrimmage releases. And it looks like Caleb Farley had the green light to do those things full speed. And then he just sat there and watched, which makes sense to not throw the guy in there in team drills on day 1.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel's a very innovative coach when it comes to bringing guys back from injury. I have a lot of respect for the way that he handles that. Yeah. He's very player first. And what he said in his press conference today and what he said all throughout his career with the Titans, with every injured player, is they've got a plan, and it's about getting them back to full speed progressively. Like you said, you don't just throw them in the water without a life jacket and say swim.
Right.
You got to give him the swimming lessons, right? You got to get him to where they need to be. And so I think Caleb Farley probably could have done all of practice today. Like you said, what he did do, it was at 110%.
Yeah.
But it's about getting him acclimated, getting him back to normal. And I'm very confident in saying that by the end of training camp, which still has roughly 3 weeks to go, we will see him out there for the entirety of practice.
Sure, but how quickly is that? Who knows? But, we can talk about the DBs as a whole because they were flying around today. The whole defense was flying around. We'll talk about Kristian Fulton here in a second.
Well, I will say this quickly about Caleb Farley. Yeah. We don't know when that's going to be, like you said. But what we learned today by him being out there on this field behind this, he's playing week 1. He will be out there. If he's not, we have a problem on our hands.
There's a setback, right? Because we learned
obviously,
Adoree Jackson was supposed to be good for the Steelers game, remember?
Yeah, but okay, if he hurts himself again, sure.
Yes,
But as things stand right now, this guy's going to be ready to go for the start of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody asked about the conversation about Julio Jones leaving practice. So this was in the team drills. I can't really go into every detail about it, but team drills, red zone work. Tannehill throws what should have been a touchdown pass to Julio Jones. Julio drops it, goes down to the ground, gets up, kind of ginger, did not go back to the offensive side of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And then whenever that period was over, they went to a special teams period after that team drill, and then Julio just went inside. And Mike Vrabel was asked, is Julio okay? And sure was the answer.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll see what he does tomorrow and yada, yada, yada. But Julio Jones, okay, sure, yeah, for Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, we were both standing right there when it happened, and when he got back up, like he was walking gingerly, but it's not like he had a limp or anything. No. It's not like he was favoring one leg or over the other. I'm kind of with Vrabel on this. I think he's probably fine from my vantage point. He mentioned that Todd Torricelli, who's the Titans director of sports medicine, just came to him after that and said, hey, Julio wants to go inside. It's all, like we talked a minute ago, the part of the plan, right? Yep. And after the team period, they brought him inside. It was his first time being in a team period that we've seen so far. So I haven't looked terribly deeply on Twitter since I've been busy with talking to people here. But I don't want to get on Twitter and see a bunch of freak out takes
No.
about Julio Jones. It's
No.
not warranted.
Definitely not. But freak out takes about Ryan Tannehill throwing interceptions.
I don't know about that.
So
he's looked rough, man. So
5
far.
practices for Tannehill and the whole team, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's thrown 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
He threw 1 to Amani Hooker on day 1,
Mm-hmm.
another one to Hooker the next day, 0 on Friday. Saturday, you were here, I was not.
Yeah.
Jackrabbit Jenkins got 2 on Tannehill.
Yep.
And then Kristian Fulton today had one that could have been a pick 6 on it was a red zone work. It would have been like a 95-yard interception return if it was a pick 6. And then Kristian Fulton could have had 2 more.
He could have.
But he dropped both of them.
Yeah.
And they were in his hands. So Ryan Tannehill, is he shaky? What's your opinion on that? I mean, Vrabel was asked questions. Is it bad decisions versus good play? And how do you weigh the two? Because it's good to see your defense getting interceptions, but it's bad to see your quarterback, who everybody's been arguing is top 10 quarterback in the NFL, throwing 5 picks in 5 days.
Yeah, with Tannehill, I don't think it's a decision problem. I think what we've seen from Kaiser, who admitted today that it's been a slow start to camp for him.
Okay, that's good.
Those are decisions. When he's rolling to the left and throws across his body, that's a decision problem. Ryan Tannehill's just been inaccurate. He's throwing to open receivers, and he's just missing them.
I think there's been some timing, too.
There were 2 plays today when they were in that same red zone period that Julio Jones had to leave during. He threw 1 pass to Cody Hollister, who was wide open. DB fell down. Cody Hollister, 6'4". And then he threw another one to Julio, who ran sort of an in post, whatever you want to call it, to the back of the end zone. Julio Jones, 6'3". He missed both of them high.
Yeah.
Out the back of the end zone.
Right. Yeah. And how much of that is Tannehill wanting to make his guy go up and make a play on it? Cody Hollister, I think if it was anybody.
I don't know that Calvin Johnson could have caught some of those.
Well, the Cody Hollister one wasn't that high. It's just that Cody Hollister couldn't go get it.
That Cody Hollister does not have the leaps.
Yes, that would have been a caught if it was Julio, AJ, or Josh Reynolds would have caught the ball that went over Cody Hollister's head.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yes, I know about that. I know about that. But so let's pump the brakes a little bit on the Tannehill INTs. I remember the training camp where Mariota didn't throw an interception for the first 23 days. And everybody was like, oh, my God, he's amazing. But he was just doing dump downs and Antonio Andrews in the backfield because we didn't want to throw down the field. But I will say this. Kristian Fulton looked really good today.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Kristian Fulton looked great. You mentioned he had the 3 pass breakups. One of them was an interception. The other 2 probably could have been, but he wasn't able to haul them in. Look, this is a guy that Mike Vrabel volunteered on Tuesday. Vrabel, who doesn't really talk about individual players. Vrabel not even asked about him. He said, well, Kristian Fulton looks like a totally different player than we coached last year. And he was an off-season award winner. He's a guy that's going to have to be relied upon for the Titans this year to play some outside corner, probably some slot too. And he looks fantastic, I think. He looks really good.
Yeah, I was asked Friday on 3HL what I thought of Kristian Fulton. And on Friday, through the first 3 practices, I didn't notice much of Kristian Fulton, which was not a bad thing. I mean, he wasn't getting beat, but he also wasn't – that's how you notice DBs. They either get beat or they make incredible plays.
Exactly.
And he hadn't done either of those through the first 3 days. And then today he immediately shows up. The actual interception was fairly early on in practice, and then he had 2 where he broke on the ball nicely. The second one, if he would have held on to it, could have been going the distance the other way. And the third one was a jump ball in the end zone that, if you pick off that ball, you stop a scoring opportunity too.
And what you're saying right now is basically what Mike Vrabel said from the podium today. He used that exact phrase you did, showed up. He said, Kristian showed up today, but it's got to be more consistent.
Yeah.
You mentioned you didn't really notice him over the first few days. You weren't the only one. And sometimes, like you said, it's not a bad thing, but Vrabel did say, and he showed up today, but he's got to be more consistent. He's got to come out here and have those kinds of efforts more consistently. And I think that can probably be said about a lot of players. But Fulton is certainly a very promising second-year player for this team.
Yeah, no doubt. A to Z Sports here live after Titans training camp practice today. Austin Stanley with Luke Worsham here of A to Z Sports Nashville.com. It seems like every time we do one of these, there's got to be something about the wide receiver competition because it is so intriguing. There's a lot of good bodies in this wide receiver room, and there's not enough spots to keep all the ones that I think could make a great case to make the team. But there is one guy who showed up today and maybe even Saturday it looks like he is creating some separation or is at least getting people noticed.
Chester Rogers is a guy that I think has a really good chance to make this roster, partially because, like I wrote about on Saturday at A to Z Sports Nashville.com, he has this punt return ability. He's done it a lot in his career with the Colts. He also can return kickoffs. He's done that to an extent. And what you're looking for in that competition at punt returner, because none of them are Devin Hester or Tyreek Hill, you're just looking for someone who can provide you some value elsewhere too.
Right.
And Chester Rogers does. He plays well in the slot. I asked Deshaun Kaiser about him today after practice, and Kaiser said he loved working with Rogers on the practice squad last year when he was rehabbing his injury, and he said he's a really good option in the slot, and that's going to help him out because I think those other receivers that are returning punts, Cameron Batson and Mason Kinsey, I don't think either one of them would give the offense the value that Chester Rogers would. And he's a steady, experienced hand in the return game. And so I think that gives him a huge advantage there.
Yeah, and Dom says with Reynolds not healthy, need someone like Rogers to step in and add some depth. And I think that's what they have. Like Marcus Johnson's had like several good practices in a row. Chester Rogers is doing that. Every once in a while, Fred Brown makes a nice play. Sometimes he doesn't. I would say Fred Brown of the veterans is probably the least of those three at this point. But you do have a lot of different guys that are options. Racey McMath and then Dez Fitzpatrick. Dez Fitzpatrick's going to make the team. Like you can't cut a 4th-round draft pick. Mm-hmm. We were talking to Mike Keith and Emily Proud was standing there too about how many receivers do you keep, and Mike was breaking down the game day roster because if you keep 7, then you at least have to have 5 of them active on game day. And then once you take away the 8 linemen, the quarterbacks, the special teams, kickers, punters, long snapper, you only have 33 spots on the active game day roster that you can use. And how many of these guys are going to be able to be active?
Yeah.
Well, can a guy like Chester Rogers, like your punt returner, is going to have to be one of those active guys. Mm-hmm. So now you're talking about Julio, AJ, and Josh Reynolds when healthy being active. The punt returner is probably your 4th active wide receiver. Then there's probably one more spot that's going to be. And is it a special teams guy?
I mean, if you keep Racey McMath, which it's certainly at this point looking like that's in all likelihood going to happen, he's up because he's your best gunner.
Yeah, and then so Dez Fitzpatrick is probably not ready to help on offense more than Chester Rogers and more than the big 3, obviously.
And that's why I think Rogers makes so much sense because, if they keep 7 and only 5 are up on game day, I think you can be comfortable with Fitzpatrick and perhaps Westbrook-Akina being the guys down because, again, Chester Rogers gives you that value as a slot player. He's not just Mr. Kick Returner. He can play offense as well.
Right. So, for example, in this scenario, the Titans keep 7 wide receivers. I think you're right. The big 3 are up, obviously. Your punt returner is the 4th. And I think Chester Rogers probably leads that right now as we speak 5 days into practice, right? So then it's between McMath and Westbrook to get that last up spot, and then the other one and Fitzpatrick are inactive as of now. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not bad, though.
No.
It's the deepest wide receiver group the Titans have ever had. By far.
And you're very comfortable, I think, going into a game with that. And again, Chester Rogers can be that number 4 guy, the fill-in if someone goes down for a game. And then if someone is injured and it's taking more than a game, then you can have the conversation about Westbrook-Akina or
why I think Westbrook has the edge over McMath right now is because Westbrook, he's been around longer, and they saw him succeed on special teams last year as an undrafted rookie. And then they think as of right now, McMath is behind Westbrook when it comes to actually receiver.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Look, it's fascinating. Every day it seems like we're having a conversation out here with other media about the wide receiver position. So, all right, guys, that's it for us. Live from Titans after day 5. Tomorrow the pads come on. For Luke Worsham, I'm Austin Stanley. Buck Rising live tonight. A to Z Sports Prime Time at 8 o'clock Central Time. We'll see what his thoughts are on practice day as Buck's radio show is wrapping up now, I guess. And he actually got to watch because they did a lot of red zone drills right in front of Buck's tent.
Yeah, that's right.
Instead of the opposite field. So we'll see you guys later on. Luke, what you got for the website coming up?
Yeah, so I'm working on a story about Caleb Farley, just recapping what he was able to do today, what he wasn't able to do today, and what him practicing today and getting pulled off of NFI this early in camp means for his future and really the value of that draft pick for the Titans.
All right, see you guys later on. Appreciate it.